Yo ho ho ho! What is up? Back here with Soul King Krasmataz in our newest of character guides. Today we'll be looking at the head bounty of the worst generation, Eustass Kid. So in this guide I'll be taking a look at, we'll start with my optimal Kid build. Just be looking at the special moves that I like to use, as Kid is largely a close range brawler. We'll be basically using all of his skills to maximize the amount of damage he can output the most efficiently that he can output this damage, and in ways that will allow you to consistently maintain his buffed out state. So one thing about Kid is that with his 2-string combo, it'll allow him to gather scrap and buff out all of his attacks. And one thing the game doesn't actually tell you about this is that you can buff out his arms 3 times, but if you're in game, he'll have different voice lines that will, correspond with the level that his arms are at. And other than that, he's your standard power type. He has, 5 lights. Each light before the 5th has a corresponding heavy string of 3 hits. His air game is pretty standard for power types as well, where it has the same 5 string with a more limited heavy string following each move, but it's still, oddly enough, Kid's air game is not only fairly good at grouping enemies together, keeping them in a cone of constant damage, it's also really good at setting up for a couple of his ground combos. We'll be going into that, but the key component of Kid's moveset is how to maximize the most out of his repel mechanic. And in order to do that, you absolutely need the special skill Cylinder. What this will do in game, actually, you know what? Why bother talking about it? And real quick, just to briefly outline his skills, I like to use the core 4, as I'm going to call them: Hero Strength, Cheat Death, Full Force Burst, and Hidden Resolve. Kid is the only character I use Tenacity on, and we'll go more into that as we go. So Kid's a normal string. It's just this typical, little fist system. Does a pretty low amount of damage, as most light strings do. His 1 string is surprisingly devastating, especially to armor. As soon as Josu lets me perform it. So he creates this little twister, and then he slaps you. Really strong move, for a multitude of reasons. Then you have his 2-string, which creates a level of buff for his metal arms. And then his is level 2. His arms are a little bigger, they'll do a little bit more damage. Level 3, same deal. Also, the 3rd hit on this move is pretty good, because it'll send enemies absolutely flying, allows you to chase them with a power dash. Alright, his 3-string. No, Josu. Alright, we'll kill Josu real quick. Josu. I'm not kidding right now. Aye. We're just gonna slap him down real quick. There we go. Okay. Do I have any health so I don't get wrecked by these goons? Yes, we do. We have some health. Alright, so his 3-string move. Pretty nice move. I'm a big fan of this one. It groups enemies up, makes them airborne, and then slams them away. What's really good about this move here, if you cancel out of it before the 3rd hit, lets you go into your air game really smoothly. Other than that though, the 3-string, it's not really going to be a massive damage dealing move. You're going to be primarily using it to make enemies airborne. And then it combos really nicely into, you know, his launcher, into his repel, a lot of stuff. And then his 4-string is where, by far, the most damage comes from with him. So he goes 1, 2, and then 3, and it just creates a massive knockback of damage. And then if we go max level with him real quick, the damage becomes exponentially apparent. Now we'll go into his air game real quick. His light string creates a series of cannonballs. The range on them is a little deceiving. As you can see, it didn't even really go that far. But it does a good bit of damage, so you want to definitely use it when you're up close and personal. Like 1, 2, 3, knock them into the air, into his light. Not a bad way to go about it with him. His 1-string in the air creates these little, this little group, this little cluster of swords. Yeah, you can get a better view of them here. And they'll actually travel downwards at an angle. Even when you aren't controlling him in the air, they'll still move on their own. Nice little way to maintain a steady stream of damage, but it's a pretty weak move at the same time. His 2-string in the air, really nice move, especially on airborne enemies. It knocks them down to the ground below him. Pretty nice move there. His 3-string in the air does a good bit of damage, but it's not as good as his 4-string, which I accidentally just used there. 1, 2, 3. Knocks them down as well. Very short range on it, though. And the damage on it isn't too impressive either. That guy was almost dead, so that's not really a great example here. Let's use it on him. Yeah, see, the damage is okay, but if you're in the air and you're going to go that far in, go into this move here. His 4-string. 1, 2, 3, 4. He dives straight into the ground. Does an insane amount of damage with this move. Let's get someone with a fresh health bar out here so we can show that off. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that guy is almost dead now. And he's unconscious. If you use it on someone who already has broken armor, they're probably going to die. So yeah, those are just his, you know, those are all of his basic moves. I would have to say, out of all of Kid's moves, I'm a big fan of both of his 4 strings on the ground and in the air. But my favorite of his is his 1 string. His 1 string on the ground, it's going to allow you to set up for a lot of crazy stuff, because what you can do, while this tornado is going, rather than smack enemies out of it, what you can do is keep them in it, and then cancel out of it with one of his special moves, and the tornado will stay there. And it'll continue to do chip damage. And if you use it with one of his other specials like that, or one of my personal favorite touches is go from this into his ult, it keeps them there. They're unable to interrupt, and then he just slaps them for the kill. So that's by far one of my favorite little exploits with that move. And then last but not least, we have his repel. Last but not least, we have his repel, right? By itself, it's a pretty weak projectile. If you have max level arms, the damage is a lot better, as you can see there. And the knockback on it is even crazier. But its primary use with this build in particular is getting a cylinder out, getting people airborne next to the cylinder, and then repelling. And then max arms in the air. Ground slam into another cylinder. And then from there you can just kind of mix it up as you see fit. So if we're coming out of that, two, three, into his 4 string, into more aerials, into more 4 string, aerial, repel, max arms. So ideally, you're already noticing that with Kid, you're going to be doing the most damage with him if you have max arms with him. If you don't, you know, we'll even show it off. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. See, it didn't even kill that guy. Normally that combo variation would have killed any of these little grunts here. And I'm almost dead too, so cheat death is starting to pop off. So you definitely don't want to go in naked with Kid. You want him to have at least level 2 with his arms. Because level 2 arms are going to do a good bit of damage. However, there's actually there's something to keep in mind with Kid's arms. Out of all of his moves, not all of them are going to necessarily gain damage bonuses from having the scrap arms. So, moves like this, his 1 string in the air, right? This move gains no damage benefit from his scrap arms. Neither does his 5 string variation. Neither does his aerial 2 string variation. Because these moves don't actually use his arms. So you do have some options. Oh god, why is Whitebeard falling? I'm running away from this. Running right away from that. So with Kid, you really do want his max arms, but if you don't have them, you can always mix up a few of his aerial moves to kind of build up enough charge before you get his specials back. Because his specials are what are going to really allow you to maximize the most out of him. Particularly Absorb. Absorb will get you to max arms right away. Because normally, if you don't have Absorb, you have to use his 2-string on the ground 3 times to build up his arms to their full potential. When it says mother, that's when he's level 3. And you can also tell because the size of them are like, literally each of his arms are larger than he is now. Oh, another thing about Kid, too, if he has any moves that cause him to dash, like his 4-string, you don't want to use them on slanted surfaces going downwards. Because if you use them on a downward slanted surface, it'll actually cause it to interrupt him. If you're going upwards, no problem. Going downstairs with it, don't do it. Can't get around it, don't know why. Not exactly the greatest move on the developer's end. What can you do? Alright, so now let's start going into some of my variations with them. So, when I see a nice group like this, what you'll want to do, you want to start off with a 3. Into cylinder, into the 1-string, two, 3, 4. Oh yeah, sometimes if you're in the air you'll land on top of your towers, which is kind of funny. And then we just go right down for the kill there. And then launcher into repel. So what you just saw me do there with the cylinder creates this big tower of metal. And if you use his standard heavy, which is repel, it'll cause your tower to explode and deal a small bit of area of effect damage. And like with most of Kid's moves, the more buffed out he is, the more damage the tower is going to do as he repels it. Let's do that again real quick. See how much it does. Ooh! Not too shabby. Clears out a lot of enemy rabble, and then sets you up for one of these. Pretty nice. So crazy. Okay. What's another good variation to show off here? Into 1-string, into his max arms, into the 4-string, to rush the enemy, and then go into your aerials. 1-string, into 2-string, into 4-string, into cylinder, into 3-string, launcher, repel, max arms, and get knocked out by the friendly family. But yeah, the idea with Kid is you really want to use that cylinder. Another useful thing about the cylinder, you can use it to block off not only enemy projectiles, but also enemy advancement in general. So you can actually hit them with the cylinder to block you from the front. And then when you come out of it, you can just blow it up. Do it again. Two-string, max arms. Unfortunately, I will say the one thing that's not great about Kid is that the only way that his cylinders can be destroyed is with repel, which isn't too great. Actually, that's not the only thing. I definitely just lied. The other thing that's not great about Kid, and we'll show this off with the Frankie family. No one better to show it off with than the Frankie family. If you have your arms buffed out, and then you get interrupted or knocked back, you'll lose your buff. Definitely not a good look for Kid. His arms are essentially made out of tissue paper. So Tenacity, earlier I was saying that Tenacity is a good skill for Kid. And the reason for that is because it'll make him less likely to flinch and be interrupted, so it'll allow you to keep your buffed arms a little bit easier. And any little bit helps with him, that is for sure. Okay, we need some health. This Frankie family is not doing anything good for me right now. Alright. Kid's full force burst has a little bit of sauce behind it too that I want to show off in a bit. Yeah, you'll see that, like, without his arms, he's pretty weak. I mean, he's not unplayable without his arms, but the difference is too hard to ignore. And you really want to play around a build that's going to maximize him being buffed out as much as possible. And his absorb ability, which is the special skill right here, it essentially gives you max arms right away. Like, it's usually these kind of moves are not necessary, but with him, the damage boost is too noticeable to ignore. Alright, now in addition to that though, Kid's full force burst is pretty great. Because what it does, you'll notice this, it buffs up his arms to level 2 instantly. So it gives you a nice immediate repel into max arms, if you have it. And then you'll also notice, if you're in his full force burst, and you use his 2-string, you only need to use it twice for him to be level 3. So again, normally when you're not in full force burst, you have to use this 3 times. But in your full force burst, you only need to use it twice. And this is particularly useful if you're implementing the full force burst premature canceling. I showed this off with my killer video, where if you cancel out of your full force burst early. It'll allow you to use your full force burst as a means of generating stamina refills faster. But with Kid, you get the added bonus of him getting immediately buffed out to level 2. So with that in mind, if you don't want to play with Absorb, and you go back and forth from having Kid with a without Absorb, all you have to do is just implement that cancellation tech, and you'll have a nice little flow going for you. So anyway, that's a nice little preview of how I play Kid. Ooh, look at that, we actually got a clear time of A there. It's been a while since that's happened. And while we're at it, we can show off his other moves in terms of his special skills. Because he does have a few other options, and I will admit, one of his other options I do favor as well, but Absorb just gives you more versatility with him, in my opinion. Conquers Hockey. And Vortex. And I'm pretty sure that's it for him, right? Because then he has Build Up and Slaughter, you know. Oh, he has Cluster as well. Alright. By the way, this build, you do not want to use Kid without Full Force Burst or without his Absorb, because otherwise you'll be forced to level him up 3 times every time you want his arms to be fully buffed. And by the way, I have to give credit to my fellow Pirate Warriors in the Bamboo Forest Discord, specifically to Nylan and Taco Joe, who compiled this massive amount of data on all of the damage for all the characters and all of the skills, right? So for Kid, he was able to data mine that with each level of metal arms that Kid gets, all of his attacks gain, I can't remember off the top of my head, I believe it was every level he gains like a either a 75 or 80 point damage boost, which is, you know, comparatively to without them, his total attack strength went down by like 120. Alright, so let's start showing off these other skills. First you have Conqueror's Hockey is pretty standard in this game. It's always going to hit the same group of enemies. Very short range, but also very fast. But if you have better options, and Kid certainly does, you'll definitely want to use them. Then there's this move here, Cluster, which you can use in the air. Nice little area of effect there. Good amount of damage. And then you have Funeral. It's a cool looking move. In terms of all of his specials, I don't exactly know the damage on Funeral versus Slaughter. Slaughter being the special that I use on my build. But in terms of using Funeral, Well, Funeral's a pretty good move. I won't deny that. And then finally you have Twister. Creates this little magnetic tornado, sucks enemies up, comes out pretty quick, recharges pretty quick, and the best part about it, you can use it in the air, which allows you to do a lot of fun stuff with them. And honestly, I used to use Vortex for a long time over Absorb. But over time, I started using Kid more of a balance from just using him in the air. So I ended up cycling Tornado out of my build. But Tornado is still a move I would highly recommend using, especially if you favor his air game more than his ground game. And I would also say the same for Cluster, for obvious reasons. And that reason being that you can use it in the air. It's his only ult that you can use in the air, as you can see there. I feel like Conqueror's Hockey should be able to be used in the air too. I've never understood that. Alright. I'll do one more showcase with his build that I had in the beginning, and then we'll wrap up this guide on him. Alright, where is Absorb? Slaughter, Build Up, and Cylinder. I mean, I do like Absorb a lot, but using Vortex again brought back a lot of memories, that's for sure. I will also say, if you do like Absorb, I will say that Cylinder isn't necessarily a move you need in order to do a lot of damage with him, but I favor it because of the defensive potential it has, where you can use it as a shield. I think that's a very unique feature that Kid has, and I like it. I think it's a fun novelty. Alright, Cadence. Take this at point blank for a ton of damage. Oh, look at that. You love to see it. Normally that move just absolutely destroys you, but I threw up a Cylinder right in time to prevent that from happening. Oh, and Repel, dude. Repel does so much damage. Oh wow, I forgot that even just forming the Cylinder will do damage too. Oh, I botched that combo. Alright, let's try the swords again. Into this. Cylinder. Air. And Kid's got some wicked aerial potential, that's for sure. especially for power types. A lot of power types in this game do lack aerial potential. That was unfortunate. Get out of here, Burgess. Alright. And there's Kid in a nutshell. For my next build, I will be continuing the Supernova train with one of the most incredibly unfortunate Supernovas to play as in terms of power. We'll be doing the next character guide on Capone Veggie. And until next time.